In this video, I'm going to demo all the core exercises that I've mentioned to build your flow and dexterity. I'll go ahead and start with playing horizontally, just single string. Here I'm going to use just one finger to play through the rhythmic variation of quarter notes, eighth notes, and an eighth note triplet. I'm going to set the metronome at 60 beats per minute. I would suggest, if you're watching this would be a good time to grab your guitar and see if you can follow along. All right, I'll go ahead and start with the low E string and starting with quarter notes. 3, 4. Here's the eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. Here's the eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. Moving on to the A string, starting with quarter notes, 3, 4. Then eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. Eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. Moving on to the D string, here's the quarter notes, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. Eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. Moving on to the G string, here's quarter notes, 3, 4. And eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. Eighth note triplets, triplet, triplet. And moving on to B string, here's quarter notes, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. And eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. And moving on to the high E string, here's with the quarter notes, 3, 4. Here's an eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. Here's an eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. That covers all the horizontal playing, taking each strings, playing through those subdivisions. Now I'm gonna move over to vertical playing using the cage system. I'm gonna take each shape, play ascending and descending through a few more rhythms. So I'm gonna play it in quarter notes, eighth notes, then 16th notes. Then I'll also cover the eighth note triplets and a 16th note triplet. For the right hand, I recommend alternate picking, especially for those faster subdivision. So here we go. Starting with C shape here, that involve open string, starting with quarter notes. 3, 4. Eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. Here's 16th notes, 3E and a 4E and a. Here's eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. And 16th note triplet, 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 triplet. Here's the A shape, quarter notes, 3, 4. Here's the eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. And 16th notes, 3E and a 4E and a. Eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. And 16th note triplet, 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 and. Okay, moving on to the G shape, I have the quarter notes, a 3, 4. Eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. And 16th notes, 3E and a 4E and a. And eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. And 16th note triplet, 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 triplet. Okay, moving over to the next shape, I have the E shape, starting with the quarter notes. 3, 4. Eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. And 16th notes, 3E and a 4E and a. Now here's 8th note triplet, triplet, triplet. And 16th note triplet, 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 and. Okay, moving on to the D shape. Here's quarter notes. 3, 4. Okay, 8th note, 3 and 4 and. Sixteenth notes, 3E and a 4E and a. And 8th note triplet, triplet, triplet. And 16th note triplet, 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 and. And then finally I'll repeat C shape, but this time in position without the open string. Same idea here, quarter notes, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 3 and 4 and. Sixteenth notes, 3E and a 4E and a. Eighth note triplet, triplet, triplet. Sixteenth note triplet, 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 and. That completes vertical playing using the cage system in different rhythmic variations. I'm going to move over now to shape shifting drill. For this one, it's very similar to vertical playing, but the idea is I'm going to play through one shape, ascending, slide into the adjacent shape, now go the reverse direction, so descending, then I'm going to slide into the next shape, ascend, slide into the next shape, descend, slide into the next shape, ascend, and so forth, so on. Now once I get to a D shape, I'm actually just going to reverse back, and let me see if I could go all the way back in the reverse order. So I'm going to demo this just in 16th notes, but you could try it in different rhythmic variations if you feel so inclined to. And after that, I'm going to demonstrate 2-string approach where I do the same thing but only 2-string at a time. And then I'll also do the same with 3-string approach using 3 strings at a time. I'm gonna start with open C shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, here comes 2-string approach. I'll start with the low E paired with A string, 3E and a 4E and a. Forgot to mention, this one I'll just go all the way through to the highest fret possible and then just go all the way back. Here we go. Here's the next string set, A string and D string, 3E and a 4E and a. Here's the next string set, D and G string, 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving on to the G and B string pair, 3E and a 4E and a. And lastly, here's B string paired with the high E string, 3E and a 4E and a. And those cover all the 2-string approach. Now here comes a 3-string approach. I'll start with low E string, A string, and D string. Same idea, I'll go from the lowest fret to the highest fret and backwards. 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving on to the next string set, I have A string, D string, and G string paired. 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving on to the next string set, D, G, and B string. 3E and a 4E and a. And lastly, here is G string, B string, and a high E string pair. 3E and a 4E and a. That completes the shape-shifting drill. Try it out for yourself if you can. Then we have the grouping drill. This next exercise I'm gonna be playing through vertically as well, but this time I'm gonna play in sets of 3, sets of 4, sets of 5, and sets of 6. So I'll go through each set one at a time. And the idea on this one is, let's say I have a group of 3, I'm gonna play through the C shape, just 3 notes. At the next set, I'm gonna start on the second note of that shape. The next one, I'm gonna start on the third note of that shape, then the fourth note of that shape, and so forth, so on, until I reach the high E string, and I'm just gonna play in reverse. Here is C shape, starting with the open string position. 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving over to the A shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving over to the G shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to the E shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, then we have the D shape, 3E and 4E and And lastly, here's the C shape without the open string, 3E and 4E and And that completes group of 3. Now I'm going to do the same, but this time playing in groups of 4. Here's the open C shape, 3E and 4E and Moving over to the A shape, 3E and 4E and Moving over to the G shape, 3E and 4E and Here's the E shape and 3E and 4E and And now onto the D shape, 3E and 4E and little mistakes at the end, but The goal here is to keep moving forward if you make mistake. Here we go, on to the last one, C shape without the open string. 3E and a 4E and a. Moving on to the group of 5, starting with open C shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, now here is A shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to a G shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Here's the next shape, E shape, 3E and a 4E and a. And here's the D shape, 3E and a 4E and a. And lastly, we're back to C shape, but without the open strings, 3E and a 4E and a. That covers group of 5, and lastly here is group of 6, 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to the A shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to the G shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to the E shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Here's moving over to the D shape, 3E and a 4E and a. And lastly, here's the C shape without the open string. 3E and a 4E and a. That completes the grouping drills. I want you to try it out for yourself. The last exercise I'm gonna demo is playing in intervals. Basically, the idea is whatever the note I start with, I'm gonna play a set of intervals from that note. So the set of intervals I'm gonna play is fourths, fifths, and sixths. Now, let me mention that some of these notes you're going to be playing through don't quite necessarily line up with exactly fourths. Sometimes it'll be a third, and sometimes those fifths are going to turn into a sixth, and sometimes the sixths are going to be lined up with a seventh interval. And that's partly because I am just thinking diatonic to the pentatonic scale. The goal with all this exercise is to give us a little different angle. So if you don't happen to understand which one is fifth, which one is exactly sixth, don't worry so much. It's not the end of the world. For the right hand, I do recommend hybrid picking. So you're gonna pluck a note with your pick, then use your fingers to play the set of interval. The first set of intervals, I'll play through the thirds and fourths, and I'll start with the open C shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving on to the A shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to the G shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving over to the E shape, 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving over to the D shape, 3E and a 4E and a. And lastly, here is the C shape without the open string, 3E and a 4E and a. Our next set of intervals, we're gonna play in fifths and sixths. I'll start with open C shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, now here's the A shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, moving on to the G shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Moving on to the E shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to the D shape, 3E and a 4E and a. And lastly, we have the C shape again, but without the open string, 3E and a 4E and a. That completes playing an interval of fifths and sixths. Now moving over to we have the last interval, 6th and 7ths. Here again, I'll start back on the open C shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to the A shape, here we go. 3, 4. And here's the G shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to the E shape. 3E and a 4E and a. Moving over to a D shape. 3E and a 4E and a. And lastly, here is the C shape without the open string. 3E and a 4E and a. That completes playing in intervals, and see if you could try it out for yourself. Those are all the core exercise. I dare you to try to follow along. Now, if you're new to any of these exercises, try not to cover them all at once. It's gonna feel very overwhelming, and please feel free to slow it down. It took me a while to kind of build up some speed on most of these, and even still, I feel like I still need to practice some of them. So use this as a reference for later on to come back to it and see if you could try adding one at a time into your vocabulary. But like I said, try to have fun practicing these and enjoy.